On today's episode of the Cryptoverse, I'm going to look at a few big movers of the day. I've got a few numbers to call out on the Ethereum price chart. It looks like Tether is solvent according to a new sort of financial statement that they've released. There's an article on the Merkel about whether the Federal Reserve, will go after Tether because they're kind of acting like a central bank. Got some good news coming out of ICONOMI. They have announced 12 new managers for their digital asset arrays, so we'll look into that. And also some news out of Peerplays. The Peerplays Blockchain Standards Association has finally broken their silence and come out with an update after a long time. And then finally, we'll talk about this article from Bitcoin.com about Goldman Sachs contemplating a Bitcoin trading operation. Also, let me know if you like this format of the Cryptoverse. Well, I'm back in the UK now, and while I was away, I couldn't really do the on-camera thing where I was switching between my live face and my screen share. So while I was away, I had to do this pure podcasting style, which is how I used to do it way back in the day. And looking at the stats, no one seems to care, right? The likes are the same, the dislikes are pretty much the same, and the views are the same. So that tells me that it's just the information that you want, and you don't really care whether it's delivered in this style with a screen cap and a voiceover versus me with the green screen and the fancy backgrounds and all that malarkey. So let me know in the comments below, do you really care about it, or is it more the show format and the information that you tune in for? Because if I could stick to this format, it's actually quicker for me to produce these types of shows. The green screen and all that does take a lot more work. So if it's not valuable to anybody, why am I doing it? So please do let me know that in the comments below. Right, I'm not going to do a market roundup because a lot of people have been complaining about this, saying that it's not that valuable. So what I'll do today, and see if you like this, is just call out some major movers. So I noticed this morning in 22nd place, Stellar Lumens is up 42.4%. That's a big jump all of a sudden for them. Other big movers are ICONOMI. That's not a surprise. It may be this good news that's come out of ICONOMI. ICONOMI's up 21.4%, and then BitShares had a bit of a dip because it was announced that BitShares was being removed as an asset trading on Bittrex, I believe it was. And now it's recovered, 17.3% up today. So that's pretty good. I think that's all I picked out for today, just three big movers. Moving on from there, I said I got a few numbers to call out on the Ethereum price chart. So Ethereum against the US dollar then. I've drawn a couple of new sort of indicators or studies on my chart here. If I zoom out, I've drawn this great big, this is like a triangle pattern, it's a pennant pattern, whatever you want to call it. And it begins way back on the 26th of May. And it draws a long-term ascending trend line, roughly in line with the 200-day moving average. And it joins up three distinct lows from different swings in Ethereum. And then the top one, it's not exactly parallel, but it joins up a high from the 12th of the 6th. What's that? March, April, May, June. So the 12th of June, and then it connects it again on the 1st of September. And that creates this narrowing sort of triangle pattern, which is reasonably long term. It's months and months and months of data. So that's it's looking like the volatility, if you like, is getting lower. And that would normally result in a breakout in the direction which it entered. So that would suggest once it finally gets to the end of this pattern, it will break out to the upside. However, that's going to be a medium to long term thing. In the short term, I've redrawn my Fibonacci retracement lines. Oddly enough, the 50% line is right bang near the $300 mark, which has had most of the interaction over the last sort of 10 candles or so. Every time it breaks down, it breaks up again, and every time it breaks up, it breaks down. So that's where it seems to be cemented to at the moment. So pretty stable on the Ethereum chart for the time being, pretty stable on the volume. So that's my forecast for Ethereum going forward. On to the news stories then. I found this. Friedman LLP have created this document. They are accountants and advisors. They've created this document on the 28th of September. It's called the Memorandum Regarding Consulting Services Provided to Tether Corporation. So I'm not going to read this whole thing. I will link to this for you. So this is also has a disclaimer in it that says this information is intended solely to assist the management of Tether Limited and solely for the management's use, and is not intended to be and should not be used or relied upon by any other party. So the fact that we are reading this, we are that other party. So they're saying, look, the accountancy firm is absolving themselves of responsibility to us. And if we get hold of this report as we have, then that's nothing to do with them, right? They're not writing it for us. They're just writing for Tether Corporation. Anyway, you remember, if you've been listening to the Cryptoverse for a while, this is an ongoing story where it was a case of, is Tether solvent? So Tether, as we know, is a cryptocurrency that is created, and one coin is created for every dollar that the Tether company has in their bank. So if you want to trade dollars on the blockchain, you deposit dollars into Tether's bank account, they issue you with the same number of Tether tokens, and then you've got a digital asset that should always be worth $1 because it's backed by one real dollar. The controversy was whether Tether had enough dollars in the bank to cover every Tether that they issued. And it was suggested that they'd created a whole bunch of new tokens, kind of like fractional reserve banking, but without having the real money in the bank. So we've been waiting to find out, audits and to find out if Tether has the money in the bank. So here we go. In the findings section, this is slightly redacted. It's had the names of the banks removed, for example. But let's just add this up because there are $2 amounts here. If I pop up my Windows calculator, so in one bank account they've got $60,919,810, and if we add that to their other bank account where they have $382,064,782, it comes to $442,984,592. Right below that is a table that says how many Tether tokens were issued and outstanding according to the Tether website. So if we subtract that number, 442,481,760, they actually have $502,000 more in their bank than they have issued Tether tokens. So they have a surplus of $502,000. That's good news because they have more than enough money to cover the amount of Tether tokens in existence. So that's the long and the short of this story. If you want to read the thing in its entirety and how they came to this, you are free to read this PDF file for yourself. They also have a Tether, like a Euro Tether, but they've only got 1,600 euros worth of reserves for that, so that's not really that much of a concern. But the bottom line is they seem to have more than enough reserves to cover their issuance. I actually found this through a link to a Merkel article called "Will the Federal Reserve Go After Tether?" So they're talking about, the bottom line is, one could argue, this is from the article, one could argue that USD Tether, has all the markings of a central bank digital currency without being effectively issued by a central bank. It's a concept that will face scrutiny sooner or later, and when it does, things won't be looking great for the parent company whatsoever. Because Tether are acting like a central bank, aren't they? They're having reserves, like the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve is the only company legally that is allowed to do this stuff. So the Merkel's asking, are they playing a dangerous game here? Ever since anyone that's tried to create a rival currency like Klaus von Nothaus with his Liberty dollar, obviously got hauled in for that, for counterfeiting and all that kind of stuff, which was a real controversial situation. So are Tether playing a dangerous game? Maybe. Because there's a central entity to attack, that's really where the Achilles heel is. Moving on from there, we saw that ICONOMI was up by a significant amount today. Let me just remind myself here. ICONOMI was at 21.4%. It may well be because of this news. So I got this email from ICONOMI's mailing list. They said, this is from 2 days ago. They said, on September the 29th, we marked ICONOMI's first year in business. And today we are designating the second year of our global history by announcing a series of digital asset array managers for their platform. So out of 150 applicants from all over the world, they have carefully chosen a group of 12 managers from that pool. And these include people like William Mugia, the guy that wrote that book, The Business of Blockchain. I've met this guy. He's like a smart cookie. So that's good news. He has his own fund on the platform and a bunch of other people. So, like ICONOMI is a situation where it's a platform, it's Ethereum based. You can deposit your Bitcoin or your Ethereum, buy basically shares in index funds, like baskets of assets, which they call these digital asset arrays. And basically then someone else manages the balance of assets in that fund, and you just stick your money in and then sell whenever you want to. So it has a number of benefits for the investor. I've just flicked over to my ICONOMI account here. I played around with the original fund that they created, and ICONOMI themselves created the original fund, and then they handed it over to Columbus Capital, I think it was, who was the first official outside agency or outside fund manager to take on a project. And now they've expanded it. So in my dashboard now, I have an array, no pardon the pun, I have a whole bunch of different funds that I can invest in, including one called the William Mugia High Growth Crypto Asset Index. And then it tells you what digital assets are in it, things like 10x, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Steam, yada yada. And each of these digital asset arrays has a synopsis, and it has its own details page along with graphs and the ability to buy and sell tokens in it. So you buy tokens that represent shares in those funds, and those tokens go up in value, and then you resell them anytime you want. Right now, it says my portfolio value is $40, and that's because if I go to my, where would I go for this portfolio? It will tell me how I've got that many tokens, and it's actually in Bitcoin. So that's sat there waiting to buy some tokens in a digital asset array. And I can do that anytime by just clicking into one and clicking buy. So interesting. This is a rival for things like Melonport, Black Moon Crypto, and if you go back to my Black Moon Crypto ICO review, you'll see the comparison table that Black Moon Crypto created to say why Black Moon is superior to ICONOMI and all the rest of it. So that's that bit. Moving on to the Peerplays story here. Again, this came to me as a result of being on the mailing list. I'm on tons of mailing lists, so that's how come I hear about this stuff first. This email is actually from the PBSA, which is the Peerplays Blockchain Standards Association. That's the not-for-profit organization that is sort of custodian of the BitShares, the Peerplays project. So they've come up with an update having had radio silence for quite a while now. So they've said up until now the Bookie app, which is like, Bookie, a bookkeeping app, the betting app. They planted it for release, but now have decided instead of having one single Bookie product, they're going to release one for desktop and one for mobile. So they're pleased to announce one for each. They'll have one for the pro sports bettor and one for the casual sports bettor. So they're still going to have a desktop and a mobile app, but there'll be two distinct versions of it, one for pros and one for casual bettors. They go on to say, to keep track of the story as it unfolds, be sure to join the Bookie email list at bookie.exchange. They talk about the launch window has now moved. It says we're moving the launch of the Bookie app to Q1 2018, which may be a disappointment, it says here, but they are fully committed to releasing it when it's ready. So that's a tough one, isn't it? Would you rather have a delay, or would you rather have it earlier and less tested? It's really hard to say no to that, isn't it? They also had this Peerplays 8 app scheduled for release. It says Peerplays 8 was planned as a series of 8 simple on-chain games, with Helm Bets, Rock, Paper, Scissors as the first one in the series. During our discussions with third-party developers over the past months, it has become increasingly clear that the work involved to properly implement these two components of an on-game API and a revenue sharing model is of greater magnitude than we originally scoped. We have made the difficult but necessary decision to suspend work on Peerplays 8 until we are able to give the project the resources that it demands. So they're now going to focus entirely on Bookie until that's ready, and then move on to Peerplays 8. So they talk about the Rock, Paper, Scissors game developed by this Pacactum Incorporated, and they've released it on the testnet, and over the next week they hope to release the live version. They said they invite everyone to the Beyond Bitcoin Hangout, which is hosted by Justin on Friday, October the 14th. If you have any questions about the project, you can ask the leadership team on that Hangout. And finally today we have this story coming out of Bitcoin.com about Goldman Sachs looking at creating a Bitcoin trading operation. So there's a quote here. It says, in response to client requests in digital currencies, interest in digital currencies, we're exploring how best to serve them in this space. And that's a Goldman Sachs spokeswoman telling the Wall Street Journal and CNBC about that. It says Goldman Sachs is interested in Bitcoin started off with the firm discounting nearly every benefit that the technology has to offer, and now a couple of years down the line, they're saying that they couldn't stop talking about the highlights and the positive benefits. So moving on from there, even further down in the article, it says here that other news outlets have stated that this past summer, Goldman Sachs has lost its golden trading touch, as the firm lost 40% in revenue compared to the previous year. So they can't really ignore the returns from cryptocurrencies. And then it says some Bitcoiners will be delighted about Goldman Sachs joining the Bitcoin environment, and others will see it as them trying to rig the market. So what do you think? I think it's positive in the sense that they can bring a lot of liquidity to the market. I think it is a downside in the sense that because it's still a very small market cap in the crypto world, they could quite easily bring a significant amount of capital that represents too big a share, and therefore could allow them to manipulate it with traditional methods that they use in the mainstream financial system, and even more so because there will be a serious whale in the crypto world where they're not so much of a whale relatively in the mainstream financial system. So big, but even bigger if they step into crypto. Alright, thanks very much for joining me today, guys. If you like this episode, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you're new around here, get subscribed. And if you would like access to my very best material, such as my structured online courses that will teach you things like how to make and save money with Bitcoin, check out cryptoversity.com. Alright guys, that's all for today. I'll be back on Monday with another episode of the Cryptoverse. Until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.